Hello everyone, welcome to the May 17th, 2015 edition of the Astrology News Report. I'm Ron Berger, your guide to what's happening in the heavens and how the resulting energy patterns affect us here on Earth. So, the big thing this week is that Mercury, the planet of rational thinking and communications, begins its 3 weeks long retrograde phase on Monday, May 18th, which will already be May 19th if you live in Europe or Asia. Usually, Mercury retrograde periods are just annoying. Communications get delayed, the message gets lost, people behave less rationally, there are more misunderstandings, equipment breaks down more frequently, and so forth. But sometimes, if Mercury combines in problematical planetary patterns, the effects of Mercury retrograde get compounded, and what would normally be just annoying can become downright dangerous. Unfortunately, that is what happens this time. Mercury will be retrograde and simultaneously combining with its enemy, Mars. So, what does this portend? Well, Mars is the planet of aggression, conflict, and destruction. Put that together with the planet of rational thinking, while it is behaving not so rationally. Or combine retrograde Mercury's penchant for misunderstandings with Mars's predilection for anger as a way of dealing with difficulty. And so, the misunderstanding blows up into something worse. The only good thing to report is that this will last only 3 weeks, and then we get back to something like normal. Now, I'll go through the zodiac and evaluate each sign for some of the potential effects. This is a bad transit combination, so necessarily most of what follows are warnings. At least you'll know what part of your life to keep an extra watch on. Okay, starting with Aries rising. Mercury will be retrograde with Mars in your second house, the house of speech. This is obviously not a good thing. Aries is a sign already predisposed to responding quickly to stimulus, and now, with the planet of communications badly disposed, teaming up with the planet of aggression in the house of speech, the potential for verbally overreacting to any perceived challenge or criticism is pretty clear. Best course of action would be to stay away from anybody you may disagree with. Oh, and by the way, the second house is also the house of family members who could indeed be the source of the conflict. For Taurus rising people, Mercury will be retrograde in the first house, giving you a front row seat to all the effects. The house of self-awareness will be distorted by the retrograde Mercury-Mars combination, leading to wrong impressions, mistaken responses, impulse towards anger when misunderstood. Basically, all the shortcomings of this nasty combination. Maybe you could go find a rock to hide under for the next 3 weeks. If you are Gemini rising, Mercury is retrograde with Mars in your 12th house, where it will play havoc with your subconscious. Since Mercury is your ruling planet, you are more sensitive to Mercury problems anyway. You will hear whispering behind your back, which might or might not actually be real. And then there will be all the worry and anxiety due to your own confused thoughts running around in your brain. This is the sector of the chart indicating sleep, which will be disturbed, and dreams, which will be anything but pleasant. This is also the house of expense and loss, so any bad decisions made at this time will likely cost ya. Cancer rising people will have Mercury retrograde in their 11th house, where it will affect friends and associates, goals and ambitions, and profits and gains. You have to be especially careful of misunderstandings with the 11th house people, your friends, any elder siblings, as well as the relationships that you have built through your professional or business activities. Even though Mars provides the impulse, this is not a good time to make decisions regarding your goals or ambitions. If you are Leo rising, you will have Mars with retrograde Mercury in your 10th house, where it can do some serious damage to your business and professional activities. Even though Mars here would like to initiate some new career project, don't do it yet. Beginning something while Mercury is retrograde will ensure that the new endeavor will have endless problems and may even fail. Make sure you have your bullshit meter activated for all business communications, proposals from others, and even transactions, all of which are suspect for the next 3 weeks. For Virgo rising charts, retrograde Mercury will be affecting the 9th house, the house of beliefs, philosophies, and religion. The planet of communications, along with the planet of assertion, Mars, will compel you to speak forthrightly about your beliefs. But watch out. With Mercury retrograde, your explanations and reasons won't make sense to anyone and will likely arouse others' ire. Since this sector of the chart connects to your father and guru, conflicts due to beliefs in those relationships are especially likely to experience problems at this time. Libra rising people will have Mercury retrograde in their 8th house, where it will affect financial arrangements with others. A misunderstanding concerning joint finances with your partner will likely lead to anger and argument. Mercury is the planet of signatures, so signing any kind of contract at this time is not recommended. This part of the chart signifies long-term problems, which could arise due to retrograde Mercury's mistakes, and made especially due to Mars's impulse and haste. Or miscommunication could end up with another downside of the 8th house, humiliation. For Scorpio rising charts, Mercury will be retrograde in the 7th house, the house of partnership and marriage. Mars, the planet of combat, plus retrograde Mercury, signifying miscommunication, in this sector of your chart means that you are headed for difficulty with your significant other. Scorpio is one of the signs ruled by Mars, so you are naturally inclined to take up challenges when they are presented. Since Mars is transiting in the 7th house, the challenge will come from the person opposite you. Retrograde Mercury guarantees there will be misunderstanding, which will rapidly build towards argument due to the heat provided by Mars. If you're Sagittarius rising, your 6th house is where Mars and retrograde Mercury will be manifesting. This is the house of problems, struggles, and difficulties. So having a difficult transit combination in this part of the chart is highly problematic. Mars plus Mercury gives the potential for hasty decisions, which then lead to mistakes. The 6th house is also your job, which becomes a venue for equipment breakdowns and misunderstandings with coworkers. The other signification of the 6th house, your personal health, can also suffer. Mercury is connected to the lungs, and Mars is infections and fevers. For Capricorn rising people, Mercury will be retrograde in your 5th house. The people of the 5th house, your lover and or your child, become a source of misunderstanding and frustration. The other significations of the 5th house won't fare so well either. this would not be a good time for making a speculative investment. A creative project begun at this time will run into all sorts of problems. Mercury will be retrograde in the 4th house for Aquarius rising charts. Since the 4th house is actions in the home, domestic life becomes the venue for the Mars retrograde Mercury energy pattern. Mars is particularly unwelcome in this part of the chart. It's the planet of combat in the house of comfort and security. Retrograde Mercury indicates that the strife will arise from misunderstandings. Mother is another signification of the 4th house. Communications with her and the potential for incurring her wrath are another likely manifestation of this transit. And for the last sign in the zodiac, Pisces, retrograde Mercury will be in the 3rd house along with Mars. Mercury has a particular affinity for this part of the chart, since Mercury and the 3rd house signify everyday activities. Mars, too, finds this sector of the chart attractive, the planet of action, in the house of desires and efforts and initiative. But with Mercury retrograde, the actions tend to backfire, and dealing with daily operations becomes quite a challenge when little things like everyday communications are screwing up all over the place. Okay, that's a quick look at Mercury retrograde for each of the rising signs. Although it will be a bit rough, remember that this is only for 3 weeks. It will all be over with by mid-June. Just one more thing. Tonight, Sunday, May 17th, is a new moon, which is at 2 degrees Taurus. If you are in Europe or Asia, it will already be Monday, the 18th. This marks the beginning of the Hindu lunar month Jethta, named for the lunar sign of that name, in which the full moon falls on June 2nd. Since the new moon is born in the same sign as the Mars Mercury conjunction, the energy of this month takes on the qualities of Mars plus Mercury. In other words, a strong tendency for forceful speech, argument, and potential distortion of the facts. And, of course, there will be Mercury retrograde starting on the 18th. So, overall, a lot of controversy and misunderstanding, and therefore not the best month for scheduling important events. Okay, sorry for all the downer information, but forewarned is forearmed, and hopefully this heads up will help you cope with the coming weeks. Thanks for visiting astrologynewsreport.com. I'll be posting updates during the week as usual on Twitter at Astro News Report.